Hi guys, so today we're going to kind of talk about the basics of interest. You've probably heard about interest before. It can be a good thing, it can be a bad thing. Um, Basically, interest is where money grows. And so, with finding interest in math, we're going to use a formula, and the formula is I equals PRT. Okay, and the I is going to stand for the interest, and that's what we're going to be finding today. The principal is what P is, so it's spelled like principal, like Dr. SJ, and that is like the initial amount that is going in. The R stands for rate, and this is normally a percent, and then the T stands for time, and this is in years. So if they give us months, then I'll show you what you have to do with it. Okay, guys, here's our first example. So Sammy Shark put $600 in a savings account with a 5% interest rate. After 6 years, how much interest is earned? So we need to identify a few things. So the initial amount of money going in is the $600, so that's going to be our P. And then our rate is 5%. But when we put it into our equation, let's go ahead and write our I, and then we just said our P is 600. So I'm going to put that in parentheses because we're going to be multiplying. And we just found our rate, which is 5%, but we cannot write it as it is. We need to write it as a decimal. Okay, so remember we have to move that decimal point 2 spaces to the left. And so our decimal that we're going to write is 0.05. Okay, and then our time is 6 years. So then you're going to type this into your calculator. You're going to multiply 600, 0.05 or 500ths if you're really fancy. And you're also going to multiply it by 6. And when you do, you're going to get 180. So the interest is going to be $180. So that means that money just sitting there in that account for 6 years will grow by $180. Okay, guys, so here's example number 2. This is an example where interest could kind of be a negative thing because it's money that you owe. So Sammy Shark borrows $1,100 at 3% for 5 years. How much interest does Sammy owe? So again, we're going to be finding the interest. So we can just write our I. Let's figure out what our P is. So our initial amount of money is $1,100. So I'm going to put a P right there. I'm going to go ahead and write that here. And then at 3%, I cannot write that in my formula like that. So I'm going to go ahead and change it to a decimal and move it 2 spaces to the left. So that's going to be 0.03 or 300ths. So I'm going to go ahead and plug that in. And then lastly, our time is 5 years. So we're going to go ahead and plug that 5 in. So now let's go ahead and put this in our calculator. Once you plug that in your calculator, you'll see that the interest is $165. So that means, like, in order to borrow money from something or someone, you do have to like pay an extra amount of money because you're borrowing it, because you don't have it like readily available. Okay, so let's do one more example. All right, so our last example, Sammy Shark invests $3,500 at 5.5% for 6 months. How much interest is earned? Okay, so the initial amount of money, the principal, is the $3,500. So I'm going to put a P right here. I'm going to go ahead and plug that in. Our 5.5%, we have to be really careful with this percent. Okay, so we need to move the decimal point 2 spaces to the left. So right here in between the two fives, I'm going to move it 2 spaces to the left. So my new decimal is 0.055, and I'm going to plug that in. And then my last example, or my last thing that I'm looking for is time, and the time is 6 months. So super important for us to know about our time is our time needs to be represented by years, it's counted by the amount of years. So since this is talking about 6 months, what I need to do is I need to think about, okay, how many months are in a year? I know 12 months are in a year, and so that's going to be my denominator because there are 12 months in a year. And this question is referring to 6 months. So 6 is going to be my numerator, and I want to convert this to a decimal and plug it into my formula that way, my interest formula that way. So 6 divided by 12 is going to give me 0.5. So that's what I'm going to plug into my formula to calculate the interest. So you just need to remember that the T for time, it is represented by years, and so if it mentions months, then you need to take whatever number of months it's talking about and put that as the numerator, and then 12 needs to be the denominator since there are 12 months in a year. Okay, so let's go ahead and plug this into our calculator and see what we get. All right, so if you plug this into your calculator, you're going to get $96.25. So that is how much interest you are gaining, or Sammy Shark is gaining, by investing that amount of money into that account for 6 months. All right, great job, guys, for watching this video. Now go ahead and continue on to the classwork for today.